let's indulge in a thought experiment. Let's say natural selection and these, I guess, random mutations, switches are all on the same ship. Who's the captain of the ship? Who's got the reins? Are these switches and mutations and variations, are those the primary agents and natural selection just happens? Or are they providing the raw materials and natural selection happens to be the primary mover, the actor? Or is it the other way around? In Monod's vocabulary, does chance come first and then necessity follows as a byproduct of it? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah, chance comes first. So the generation of those variants is a chance event. And all natural selection that's the way we describe essentially the competition between variants. Remember, there's no agent, right? There's nothing, the creature doesn't have any say, anything like that. Let's just take you and I, all right? There's some variations in appearance, height, et cetera, between you and I. Most all of those are going to be subtle developmental difference, like say face structure, right? Most all those are little subtle things that went differently in the building of our faces and our, during gestation and things like this. Other subtle, limb length, et cetera, all these little variations, right?
They were random?
Well, they were the genetic differences that determine that arose at random. Okay. But there is genetic information in you that's different, slightly different than genetic information in me. So we come out just a little bit different.
Right.
Right. Very much human, very, very, very similar genetically, but just a few differences, which to a trained human eye, you can tell, right?
Yeah.
So the origin of that, so let's talk about the origin of that variation is random. It's without any regard to the influence of that mutation on the performance of the individual. So we got to back up then, because I think if we're going to talk about this, we got to get to the root of this. Okay. All right. So we have this genetic information in DNA. When DNA is copied, which it is as every cell divides, and which it is in making the cells to make the next generation, making eggs and sperm, it's a phenomenally accurate process, but it's not perfect. In humans, you're talking about copying about 3 billion bases and making a sperm or an egg. There are going to be 20 or 30 changes out of those 3 billion or so bases. We call those mutations. And that's because that copying of DNA, which is this huge number of permutations of the 4 letters ACGT and all sorts of orders and strings and all that sort of stuff, occasionally a mistake is made or change is made, you could say, in the machinery of the cell. And so they arise at random. They're sprinkled across the chromosomes. They're sprinkled across different genes. And they arise without any regard to their potential impact. Most of those mutations have no impact at all. Some could be lethal. Okay? But they're going to arise. Or some could, if they're not instantly lethal, they could compromise one of us for a large part of our life or shorten our lifespan. So the generation of variation is random. What happens, and in the process of living creatures, is that competition then plays out, right? So if one inherits mutations that prevent you from even reaching adulthood and reproducing, those mutations aren't going to be passed on. Other mutations, if they contribute to your making it to adulthood and maybe to your vitality, those mutations are going to be passed on. That's what I mean by the competition, is that mutations that are generally deleterious, generally disadvantageous, they are going to die out in a population, and those that are advantageous are going to be favored, and they're going to make it in a population. But the origin of those mutations is a random event. And let's go even deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Now we really understand the nature of that randomness.
Let's go.
And it's incredible. Okay, it's just a beautiful thing. Now this is getting way down. DNA is made up of, we'll just shorthand these 4 bases, A, C, G, and T. And those chemical bases have particular structures. And in those structures, if you've ever seen maps of molecules, organic molecules, there's places where hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and all these things go in the rings of the bases. Well, those bases come generally in some alternative forms, and it has to do with the positioning of where hydrogen may pop up. And in fact, this is just a fundamental matter of physics, that hydrogen is not always in the same place. It's a matter of chance. It's in one place in the molecule for one moment, and back, and back, and back, and back, and back.
The atom itself?
Yes. It's you can almost think of it like it's oscillating, it's fibrillating there. Okay. And it turns out that the fundamental way the genetic material is copied is that these bases are complementary to one another. So A always pairs with T in DNA, and C always pairs with G. But it turns out that when that little hydrogen moves, it will now pair with a different base. So when the machinery that copies DNA is zipping along DNA, and it moves incredibly fast, if in that, and it is a split second, less than a split second, if the base is in that alternative configuration, a different base will be inserted as a complement to it. And that's a mutation. This is not a matter really of biology so much as of physics. That the very material that makes up our genetic material has built into it little shape shifts that endow it with this property of the ability to change. You want to rest on that for a second? I'm saying that this is an inescapable fact of life, that there will be change. And it has to do with the chemical and physical nature of the material that's universally used to encode our genes.
I'm surprised that systems haven't evolved a sense of synchronizing to whenever the hydrogen's in the right state, just copy it at that point.
No. Well, here's the beauty of this. Without mutation, there'd be no variety. Life would be constant.
Yeah.
So people might think, look, I mean, if you think about, think of yourself as a typist. If you made 20 mistakes out of 3 billion letters, you'd feel pretty proud of yourself, okay? But it turns out that what you're doing is you're just seeding the population with a little more variation. And of course, those variants are also the source of all adaptation that's going to happen to the changing world. The Earth, speaking over geologic time, is constantly changing. The Earth changes. Life has to change along with it. So when you think about this process of mutation, where we think about our own lives and we're like, oh, I don't want any of those mistakes. I want everything the same, okay? But we wouldn't exist without the accumulation of millions and millions and millions of changes from our primate and mammalian and four-legged ancestors and deep Cambrian ancestors from 500 million years ago. You don't get a bipedal, large-brained, baseball throwing, soccer ball kicking animal without a fair amount of genetic change. So mutation is the root. It's the source of all beauty, diversity, change in the biosphere. And it's essentially built in to the chemistry of the bases in our DNA. There's going to be some level of change due to the chemistry and physics of those bases. Kind of awesome.